I got to work with The Rock.
Greg Dolph is an actor, stunt performer, and the legendary face behind the Deacon in WaterWorld.
Now, was WaterWorld your introduction into Universal?
Yeah, and that was 30 years ago.
He's brought the show to life as the original Deacon since 1995. He's helped define a character fans love, mixing comedy, chaos, and pure showmanship.
Our job is to create focus where it needs to be so that in this massive 3,000-seat arena, people know where to look.
Greg has also worked in film and television, including Resident Evil Extinction and comedy skits with The Rock and Conan O'Brien.
Well, I was on Conan for over 10 years. Look at that!
Today, he continues to bring the Deacon to life for generations to come.
What gets you excited to still step out on stage every single day and perform this show for so many years? Greg, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much for having me. Really appreciate it.
October 21st, 1995, opening day at WaterWorld at Universal Studios.
Yeah.
Take me back. How did it feel stepping out onto the stage for the first time as the original Deacon of WaterWorld?
Yeah. Wow, that's a great question. It certainly does take me back. And that's a very important date for me and for the history of Universal Studios and for WaterWorld in particular. So I'm going to take you back just a little bit before that because it feeds into it. When I got out of grad school in 1989, the world of theme parks had fallen in love with this newfangled form of entertainment called live action stunt shows. And so they were really just getting off the ground. People who may remember shows like the Batman Stunt Show and the Police Academy Stunt Show and the Robin Hood Stunt Show. Of course, there was also the famous Indiana Jones Stunt Show. So there were a lot of stunt shows just kicking up. And so I emerged from grad school into that environment. And I found work in that environment as an actor. And then right after they hired me as an actor, they discovered that I also directed. And so I got to direct some of the early things like the Batman Stunt Show and the Police Academy Stunt Show. And so when WaterWorld in 1995 came up, they had a short list of people who even were out there directing these beasts, these large live action stunt shows. And so my name was on a short list of people. So up into the Black Tower I go to interview to direct WaterWorld. And the person that walked in right after me was a good friend of mine who was also directing for the same company I was directing for, the Totally Fun Company. And his name was Tito Enriquez, a wonderful gentleman, very talented, very bright. And he got the job to direct WaterWorld. And then just a few weeks later, I went to the audition to apply to act in WaterWorld and got cast as the Deacon. And what I always like to say is that Tito got a year of work directing WaterWorld. And as a performer, I got 30 plus years. Yeah. So as fate would have it, it was very fortunate that I didn't get hired as the director on that particular day. Back to October 21st, 1995. It was a tremendous honor to walk out on that stage and do the very first live performance for a live paying audience. When we were first hired, we were 5 deep in our roster. And they called me up, and back then Universal used what they called the red, white, blue, yellow, green team. So they had red, white, blue, green, yellow, 5. And then anyone on the roster after that was all numbered. So they hired the original 5 cast members in every role. And when they called me, they said, Greg, we want to hire you as one of our deacons. You're going to be on one of the full-time teams for the initial hire, but we have an entire rehearsal process to go through, and we don't know where you'll fall on that list of 5 when all shuffles at the end. And so during the entire rehearsal process, which was 2.5 months long, about every 3 days, a new list went up and you found out where you were. Were you on one of the first 2 teams or one of the other teams? And I was on the white team. So it was called red, white, blue. So red and white were the 2 full-time teams. And I was on the white team, and I watched friends that I'd been working with rise and fall all around me. And from the first day of rehearsal at Castaic Lake to opening day, I remained on the white team. And we had a very good team. And they actually moved some of the people from the red team to our team for that opening day, and they reshuffled some of it almost just a day or two before, and they decided that our team was going to be the team that would do the first show. And so there was it took a lot of rehearsal and a lot of credibility building and a lot of nuance between, what cast members to make the best team for that particular day. And so I felt deeply honored to have that opportunity to be on that team on that particular day.
I mean, no, that's amazing for it to even land that way because of all the different shuffling, like you were mentioning.
A lot of shuffling.
So you step into the show, you start performing that first show. What was the feeling like? What was the audience like?
Yeah, the audience was great. Obviously very responsive to that show. The show that had been in that venue for 8 years prior was Miami Vice. And that show was their highest rated attraction from opening day until closing day.
How long was that show around?
That ran for 8 years.
8 years, okay.
It ran for 8 years. But that show, because it was linked to an IP that had a very specific time period, it sort of outdated itself. And so the hairstyles and what they were wearing, once you get 8 years down the road, all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is kind of a period piece now. The fun thing about WaterWorld is that it is, but the period is post-apocalyptic. And so it's very Mad Max on the water. It's the polar ice caps have melted. And until that day actually happens, nobody can go, well, this starts to feel old because it's still futuristic. And it's one of the things that's, I think, really translated into longevity for the show because it doesn't have a time period that people can go, hey, this starts to feel old.
Yeah.
And a lot of the techniques that we use, a lot of the technology, even though it's 31 years old, is still state of the art. We use a lot of really amazing stuff. Even to this day, I marvel at the machinery that helps run that show. It's really pretty amazing.
Now, was WaterWorld your introduction into Universal?
Yeah.
I was like, did you ever sell popcorn before? Did you?
No.
I don't know.
No, Brandon, my very first day, I arrived in Los Angeles in 93 and started teaching speech communications for 10 years out at Mount San Antonio College. And I was working at the same time for the Totally Fun company doing the Batman Stunt Show. So that was in 93. 2 years later, I came to Universal. I had never been to Universal Studios before.
Oh, wow.
My very first day at Universal Studios was for orientation. So it's very funny because they take you through this whole orientation and then they release you. And I walked all around the park. And back then, maybe the saddest thing now, Universal was a lovely place, but we had so many shows. That was really the hallmark of Universal Studios Hollywood back 30 years ago. You couldn't see all the shows in one day. There were so many shows park-wide. And Universal Studios Hollywood doesn't have the real estate that a lot of other theme parks had. So it needed to differentiate itself. And it really did in terms of shows. I had just come from the Batman Stunt Show, and that was about a $3 to $5 million show. Going to WaterWorld, which is a $15 to $17 million show. And that was 30 years ago. To put a show like WaterWorld in now, I mean, extrapolate what that might be by today's, inflation. So they had so many shows. So I walked around the park and I saw the Beetlejuice Rock and Graveyard Review. I saw the Wild Wild West Stunt Show, which was my favorite. I saw the Flintstone show, which is like billed as a Broadway show with many moving scenic pieces and elaborate costumes and dancing and really wonderful. But and the animal show, they had so many shows in the park. So that was my first experience.
I don't think I ever realized that. I mean, granted, yes, a lot of movies come out of there, but I don't think I realized, well, granted, 30 years ago, I'm 30. And so I'm like, the fact that it was mainly shows before it started transitioning into more rides and stuff. So
yeah, a lot of the show venues, I mean, the Terminator show, Terminator in 3D.
Oh, I remember the Terminator.
Right? The Blues Brothers show. They had so many shows. They had a lot of street entertainment. But yeah, a lot of those venues got replaced with mechanized turnkey. So even some of them exist today. Where Minions is, that was the Terminator show, the Terminator 2 in 3D, where the panda It's Panda right now. Yeah, where the Panda 3D movie is. That was the Flintstone show. It was also the Nickelodeon show. It was the Rugrats show. That's a real working theater. That's got a fly space and wings, but that's a turnkey movie now, a 3D movie.
Yeah.
Where the roller coaster currently is, 2 more shows just got eliminated just a few years ago. The Animal Actors show had been there for 50 years. That got eliminated.
Wow.
And another show that I was a part of, the special effects show.
I remember that.
That show also fell for the roller coaster.
I loved it. It was funny. They did a lot of great stuff with the new special effects, but I liked even the old one. The old one was so good when I think they turned somebody into like a monster
downstairs.
Yes.
I have a son who's also in the entertainment industry, and he and I used to go downstairs and watch the special effects show down there. It was so good. You'd get moved to those 3 different rooms. And they had the fluffy character. I remember that show dearly. That was a very intimate, hilarious, fun show. Yeah, that was a really good show.
They had that. They also had, was it Backstage Fire or
yeah,
Fire?
The Backdraft.
Backdraft.
Yeah. I mean, I say this, Universal Studios has been home to me for many, many years, and I love it. And there's still much to get excited about Universal Studios. But that, to me, that's the hardest pill, is like how much live entertainment has fallen off over the years, just systematically less and less and less.
Well, I'm really glad WaterWorld stuck around. It's been my favorite show. I mean, my dad's been taking me and my brother there for years, and I come to find out like a year or 2 ago, he mentioned his favorite ride there was the tram, and I was like, why? And he's like, well, you guys are safe when we're in this, and so I would sleep. So he would take a nap.
I take naps on the tram too.
Really?
Yes, I do. I'll go, like, I bring family and friends. We'll go on the tram, and I'll just kind of like close my eyes at times. Something.
So he did that. He would take us to WaterWorld, and I gotta say, we would go, and I absolutely loved that show, and I think a lot of people do, and because it's so well done, the comedy, the action, the people in it, all of you guys definitely bring that show to life.
Thanks.
But every time I would watch it, there's certain performers you look out for, and they're like, I really like that person. And you were one of them. Like, I was like, every time you would come on, or if there was maybe a different Deacon, I'm like, that's not the one I'm used to. Like, the one I'm used to really is in that character and brings that show to life, and almost is the voice of the show.
Thank you.
And so, I mean, I know there was one time they wanted to try to get rid of the show, I think, right? And
that rumor has been floating around for many, many years. And I think it just, resurfaced again recently because it was covered by one of the major news networks. I think they got a hold of a development plan for Universal Studios that they have to renew periodically. And in the renewing of it, it showed where WaterWorld was to be another devoted to merchandising or food or something else. They have a developmental plan that's like 10 to 20 year plan. And in that, essentially all that plan does is give them the right to, once they renew it, to manipulate those areas as they will. So there was no hard, fast, nothing dictating that WaterWorld was going away. It was just saying, this is, we have the right to do whatever we want. And then they immediately had to do a lot of damage control because people went a little bit crazy going, what's going wrong with WaterWorld? And we had a lot, we have such a huge fan base, and a lot of people immediately stormed the castle saying, wait, what are you doing? Are you getting rid of, and what's there, and what are we doing? And then Universal said, no. We're not, WaterWorld is not going anywhere soon. We have no imminent plans to change it.
It's just the mass amount of people you bring in, the energy. Like, I've seen the show a million times. You've performed it a million times, and it seems brand new every single time. I would actually, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
30 years of doing this. Every time I've seen you do it, you've poured all your energy into it. You've been 100%. You've almost made it seem like it was your very first time performing a show, because that's the level of energy you brought to every show. How do you keep that stamina and energy 30 years and still keep it fresh?
Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that question. And it's very much at the heart and foundation of why I am still there, and why I think I'm still there, even though I tap that line a little bit, the boundary of like staying on script. I've had many, many wonderful managers, supervisors over the years, and there is that duality. They say, hey, one of the things that you do really well is you absolutely, every show is like it's the first time. And so we really appreciate that. The other thing is you probably take more liberties than we feel comfortable. And I'm going to talk about the process.
Yeah.
But I'm going to honor that other part where they say you take more liberties, because I do have a deep respect for what they have to do. And in particular, when it comes to wrangling Greg Dolph, it's not an easy chore. What I always try to let them know is I have a deep respect for that. It's quality control. And we have bosses that then have to answer to Universal. And Universal wants to make sure that what goes out there has been approved. And so it's hard to go, we have performers that are doing things that have not been approved. They want, like, what are they saying? What are they saying? And so our supervisor is saying, hey, Greg, every time that you like go off script, it puts us in a place where Universal says, hey, we saw a show the other day and Greg Dolph was saying this. And then my supervisors, I had one of them tell me in a meeting, he goes, I saw a Deacon the other day and the Deacon did this. And then my supervisor goes, which Deacon was it? And if they go, it was Greg Dolph, then he'll go, yeah, we're working on a few things to cover for me. He goes, I've covered for you so many times. So to all of my supervisors, all of our dear managers, directors, and supervisors that have had to stand up for me and for what I do out there, I just want you to know I love you to death. And I have a deep respect and for you and for what you do in wrangling me. And thank you for letting me be who I am. And within guidelines, we get this done together. And I really, really love and appreciate you. Here's the process.
Yeah.
I had to kind of put it in words because so I went off in 21 during the pandemic to direct the latest WaterWorld in Beijing. So I went over there and I was over there for 6 months. And then we have a WaterWorld in Singapore, we have a WaterWorld in Beijing, we have a WaterWorld in Japan, and then we have the original in Hollywood. And during that time period in 21, they were coalescing once again all of the scripts and trying to unify them and say, we want everybody saying the same thing. Obviously, there's going to be translations in Mandarin and in Japanese, but we want to make sure, apart from some of the cultural modifications, that everyone is saying the same thing as far as the English translation. So I come back to Hollywood. I had to audition again after the pandemic to get back into the show. And then we have a whole new set of managers here. And their mandate was keep them on script. And so some of the very first shows I did, I was being me and still innovating and trying to find new things while staying largely on script. And I kept getting notes on it. And they said, look, we've been told you guys have to stay absolutely on script. So Greg Dolph wrote a manifesto. It was called A Case for Some Creativity. And I gave it to he's a lovely, lovely man. And our current manager, he's actually been there ever since we've come back from the pandemic, or shortly after that. He's a very, very good person. And actually, he and I have gotten along very, very well. And one of the things I love about his directing style was that he didn't come and say, don't do this. He said, will you tell me what this that you're doing, what that does for the show? How do you think that helps the show? And I so love and respect that, because it wasn't just you're outside of the script, don't do it. It was you're breaking that line. Why are you doing it here? And what value do you see in that? And to all future directors, that's what an actor wants to hear.
Yeah.
Because if I can't justify it, it doesn't belong. But if an actor can justify, no, I wouldn't suggest this for somebody doing Shakespeare. Stay on script. But these live shows where they vary and they move, they're fluid. So the process was I had to say, first of all, I don't want complete freedom, but there are two specific places where I'd like the freedom to explore a little bit. One of them that keeps the show fresh is what I call same for same. And the example, Brandon, would be, you won't ruin my plans for dry land. You're not going to ruin my plans for dry land. You will not ruin my plans. So I can change, or to Helen, I could say, you want to play games? Let's play games. Oh, Helen likes games. Let's play games. Helen, do you like games? I like games too. Let's play. See how these are same for same.
Yes.
It's my way of going, what do you want this moment to be? And as long as I don't take up more time, can I say it slightly differently? That puts in a little bit of variety. It creates a spark in the other person's eyes because Greg isn't saying the same thing he said 2,000 times. Now I'm saying something slightly different, and they have to, it just wakes everybody on stage up just a little bit. So same for same. And then the other area where I ask for a little bit of creativity, it's where some of my biggest laughs come from, actually. The show is systematically set up to be a stunt show. And so if you look at it, there's stunt, 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 stunt. Our job as the Deacon is to, obviously we play a story role as the major antagonist, but our major role, theatrical role, is to create focus where it needs to be so that in this massive 3,000 seat arena, people know where to look. It's kind of like watching a tennis match because there may be a stunt up there and then it's here and then it's over here. So they keep coming back to the circus ring leader, ringmaster, which is the Deacon. We're mic'd up to be able to send focus to each of these stunts. So part of our job is to go, hey, everybody, and we do it different ways, either through line or physical association. Look at this stunt. And then there's a gap between that stunt and the next one. And there's a moment right after this stunt is done, right here, before we throw focus to this stunt, where we can make a comment about the failure of our henchmen, right? So they do a stunt, I can make one quick comment. Then I set up the next stunt. They do the stunt, I can make. Now, obviously, the script has some of those already in there. There are some already built in the script. Some of them we created in the first 3 years. And they went, keep that, because it adds color and character relationship between the Deacon and his horrible team of henchmen who are failing at every single moment. So same for same and being able to do a little color commentating. Those are the two things that I asked for a little bit of freedom. And then I created what I called my rules. The biggest rule is I can't create something that draws focus to me if focus isn't on me. So I need to make sure that whatever I create sends focus. I can't pull focus from where focus needs to be. So every Deacon needs to know exactly where the focus should be so that we don't break that rule. And the last one, I said, I don't want freedom to change the entire script. So I called it the tax rule. So I said, I need to make sure that 90 to 95% of the script is exactly the way it's written. And on any given show, I just want to be able to play a little bit with 5 to 7% for variety. So that was a long-winded answer.
I love that.
But for anybody interested in what instruments and tools I use to try to keep the show fresh and continue to evolve the show so that this year we're still discovering things that were never in the show before.
Yeah.
And a new audience can come each year and they go, oh, I haven't heard that line. Is that new? It's like, yeah, we've been playing with that.
Yeah.
So that's the answer to how we try to keep it fresh and alive.
So speaking on script, one of my favorite parts also is when you feel like the mariner has gone into the water and you're like, yes! And it's like, that's like your little moment of silence and everyone seems to pour out a lot of laughter.
Yeah.
I love that part. One other thing I want to say, when I had Joey on, we were talking about this line and we both couldn't get it right.
We're going to pave it and drive it, tax it and tithe it. Sweet Joe above, we're going to use it, cruise it, fill it, drill it, and build an 18-hole monument to my beloved self.
And there it is, Joey.
You guys, yes, Joey. Yeah, you guys got stuck up on. You guys kept going. We're going to tax it and we're going to fill it, drill it. And I was like, no, pave it and drive it, tax it and tithe it.
Yeah, Go ahead.
The one that's interesting there is that fill it, drill it. And I've always thought, well, that's the way it was written, but shouldn't it be drill it and then fill it?
Yeah.
Fill it, drill it? I don't know. It seems like that's sort of putting the cart before the horse, but.
In the times that you say you like to improvise a lot, you like to kind of have a little sparkle of being able to do something different. What are some moments where the people you're working with, maybe they forget their line? And how do you navigate that?
Honestly, most of the time the people don't forget the line, so that it's whatever I do is not so different. But there are a lot of I don't know specifically of an example of that, but I do know of things that we've designed that are very, very fun. We call it old school WaterWorlds, because what happens is we create all these things, bits. We call them bits. we innovate, we create them, we try them, and then audiences love them. And then somebody will come along and say, hey, we don't think that's right for the show, so take that out. And then they immediately go into what we call the old school playbook, so that every once in a while, every blue moon, we'll pull out something that we haven't used for a little while. But one of them, I'll give you a couple examples. One of them was, the show is very episodic. So as I mentioned, it's like set up this stunt and then set up this stunt. And then there's this moment. And there are a lot of little individual engagements between me and the lackey, me and Joey Wilson, the Chuck character, me and the audience. And so as we went through all of those, this moment, I suddenly realized that many years into the show, I was like, I've not played with this moment. I've never thought to change the lines when I pick up what is called a potato masher, and I pull it, it's when the mariner's coming around, and I say, come on, fish boy, let's go, me and you, man against fish, and I throw it into a bucket, a barrel, and then it blows up and he goes over the ramp. And I had never played with those lines. And then one day I thought to myself, well, I get this potato masher. Would the Deacon know how to use this thing? And I thought, how interesting would it be if I literally had to read instructions on the side of this potato masher? So I jump up on the crate and I say, pull tab A and release.
Oh, you do that.
And I go, tab A. And I dropped it in the barrel and then it blows up, right? So, Brandon, there are so many moments in the show. Literally, if you listed them all, I'd say, I remember working with this one, and I remember toying around with this one, and I remember these are some things I tried with this one. But that one, we would get, it was fairly simple. Pull tab A and release. And then about 2 shows into doing that, the Helen, who is Helena Barrett, a very famous and accomplished Hollywood stunt woman, an actress and stunt coordinator, dear friend of mine. And she was the best toy out there in terms of an improv partner. She was all in. And the other person back then was Lon Gowan. So back in this day, we had Lon Gowan as the sage, Helena Barrett as Helen, and myself as the Deacon. And we were probably ruthless to our supervisors because we came up with so many things. So a couple performances into doing that, I go pull tab A and release, and I hear her from the top of the slide pole. She goes, not tab A. And then she slides down the pole, and then it became a favorite for our crew backstage. They're like, oh, that's so hilarious. You're saying not tab A. It was arguably just an inside joke maybe. And then all of a sudden one day she comes up to me and she says, our manager told her that she couldn't say not tab A. And so she got that note. And then I said, okay. And then, forgive me, the very next show I went out and I said, pull tab B and release. And she goes, not tab B. And then I said, 23 more to go.
20.
Yeah.
There was a video I saw in regards to number of shows you guys are performing. I didn't know the max amount of shows you would do in a day would be like 14 shows. You weren't performing all 14 now, were you?
No, I'll throw you back to remember, red, white, blue, green, yellow.
Yes.
So back in the day, we were doing as many as 14. We had very occasional 16 for very special days, but it wasn't uncommon at all to do 14 shows in a day. And so we'd have 3 teams on a day. We'd have, it'd go 5, 5, 4. 5 shows, 5 shows, 4. We generally maxed out at 5 shows. The very first year, 1995, we actually maxed out at 6 shows. So for that very first year, the first 2 teams would do 6 shows.
Wow.
And then they changed it. They realized 6 was too many. People would get too fatigued. So we said 5 shows is good.
Now, where did you pull a lot of your inspiration for creating this character of a Deacon, of not only being a villain, but having so much comedy to him and pizzazz?
Yeah, great question, Brandon. My favorite villains have always been, as I said, the intelligent, charismatic villains. And so I'm going to go right to the ones that I absolutely love. Alan Rickman in Hans Gruber in Die Hard. That to me is a charismatic villain who you actually kind of go, that seems like a nice guy. Obviously, he's doing really ruthless things, but he seems bright. He seems intelligent. He seems like he does care about his guys on a certain level, but he's ruthless, and nobody will stand in his way. And obviously, Alan Rickman also did, Sheriff of Nottingham. And during that time period, that was a time period where that was the state-of-the-art villain, was one that you really kind of got behind. And let's go to WaterWorld itself. Let's go to the source. Dennis Hopper, as the Deacon, was a fun, charismatic leader. He could stand up on the dais and give a speech to get everybody riled up. He had tractor pulls on the Exxon Valdez. He gave out cigarettes and cans of Smeat. So his men loved him. He was inspirational, but obviously he would also shoot people at a moment's notice. So those are some of the villains that come to my mind.
Okay, I love that. What gets you excited to still step out on stage every single day and perform this show for so many years?
Well, our audiences are great, are absolutely rejuvenating. I'm not young, and there are days, obviously, where I get up and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go do this stunt show. I gotta climb these ladders. I gotta do fights, and what I can honestly tell you is that in between shows, a lot of times, I've worked in stunts for many, many years, and I've always been a napper. So anybody that knows me knows that from day one at WaterWorld back in 1995 to now, I take a nap. I'll go ahead and just find some little tree to, lay under, even there at WaterWorld. So I'll nap and everything, but I may get up and be a little tired and go, all right, here we go. But the moment that boat goes to the gate, that audience, it's like the greatest shot of adrenaline. And if you have a heart and you have an open mind and spirit that kind of takes that audience in, you cannot help but be transformed and rejuvenated. And I always marvel at it because I've had days, it's the old theatrical adage that the show must go on, but I've only taken a couple sick days in 30 years. So I just show up, I work through generally anything and everything. And I've been sick as a dog. I think COVID has changed that. You generally don't show up too much nowadays post-COVID if you're really, really sick. But I remember many times being injured and just showing up and working or not feeling well. And you go through that gate, and I don't care how I'm feeling before I go through that gate on that Deacon boat. The moment I go through that gate, that crowd is everything.
Something different about a live audience, You're just
Absolutely.
that energy that's just pouring into you. Now, you mentioned as far as, so doing it for 30 years, how do you stay in shape and how do you warm up before the show?
Well, my life is generally pretty active anyway because I teach theatrical combat at AMDA 2 days a week, and then I'm doing the stunt show. And a body in motion stays in motion.
I love it.
I've never been real big into going to gyms. You can probably see that on my body. I'm not like a bodybuilder, but primarily as an actor, I haven't necessarily needed to be like this, incredibly buff character. But I do believe in general conditioning and cardiovascular. And so I do a lot of hiking. And other than that, we do warm up every day. I have a specific warm up that I do prior to every show. I have my little area, where we also operate as water safety. So before the show starts, before you even see the Deacon, I've already safetied for two dives. The Joey's character, the Chuck character who slams into the boat stern, when he and the jet skier come behind the boat stern, the first face they see is me or the face of the Deacon. We make sure that they get out of the water. And then I run around to the other side for the gate fall for the fire diver, who will eventually be the fire diver, but he gets shot off of the gate. And then I'm there, and then I run over to the boat, and they drive me in.
Goodness.
So we do a lot of running, a lot of ladder climbing, and then other than that, we have a dynamic warm-up that we do as a group in the morning.
So up top, there's obviously a switch with, so someone who's barely seen the show, maybe they don't notice it, of course, but when you've seen it a million times, right?
A lot of people, friends and family, they still marvel, and they go, I can't believe that you go, wait a minute. Yeah. Yes, that's me. No.
First of all, one, have you been off the top?
I have not been off the top. Now, when we first auditioned back in 95, our audition was at the Van Nuys swimming pool, and they have a 3 meter, 5 meter, something like that. any rate, they made us go off of the top one. They just wanted to make sure that we could safely get into the water, essentially a pencil dive, just kind of to take care of us. But nowadays, literally anybody that's at each of those levels at WaterWorld, when they audition, somewhere in that audition process, they've got to go off at the top. So I've not had to.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not now, but back then when you were kind of building up, was there ever thought of maybe I get in that suit and jump off that thing?
Maybe I do what?
Get in that suit instead. I don't know. Switch roles and jump off.
You know, we joke around a lot. I have a dear friend who plays that double, Kyle Kolar, and we have this long running joke where he'll go, maybe today you'll do it. And I go, yeah, I'm not feeling today. I got my grandma said that she wanted me to talk to her and I don't have time to prep. Could you just do it today? So we have this long running joke. When I was younger, there were other roles that I might have been interested in, like the lackey role, because again, I slide to sort of the comic instincts. And that role has sort of been redefined a little bit with a little more fighting. Of course, fighting is something I also love. So when I was younger, I had interest in the lackey role. But other than that, I'm happy to stay in my lane. I was very fortunate to choose a role that I could grow into. I was significantly younger than the Dennis Hopper character when I started, and now I'm older than he was when he played the role. So it's been a good role to sort of age through.
Yeah, no, I love that. Now, you brought some things today. Let's show what you got over here. So you said this was created. Go ahead.
Let me start with this, I guess, because then you can see what the guy did.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I don't know what
this camera right
best
here
to show it to. So on the very front of the Deacon jacket, this is a panel that rests on the front, and on the back it's actually got Velcro because on our jackets, and you're so good about getting photos, you probably have a photo on the screen right now. You'll notice that there's a lapel, or epaulets on either side that are pretty decorative. And then we have this front of the jacket decorative panel. And these are created so that we can take them off the jackets and wash the jacket at the end of every day. And the costume department, they do a wonderful job of populating this panel with all sorts of interesting things. And then over the years, guests from all over the world, wonderful fans from all over the world give us little trinkets, and then we sew some of those trinkets on. Some of them are from family trips, like my son and I took a trip to Germany, to Munich. But a lot of them are just given to me by different fans. I'll show you different ones.
Wow.
So we have little ducks. This is something from Resident Evil. It's one of the credits I use. So one of the fans noticed that I was from Resident Evil Extinction, and they gave me that. There's a leaf. Some of my dear friends know that I love leaves. We have a bunny rabbit. We have a sword. People know I do sword fighting. So a lot of times I'll come in and somebody said, there was a guest here the other day and they brought you something. And then I'll just have little things and I sew them onto the jacket. And our costumers have been really forgiving and lovely to let me populate these panels with some personal things from guests. One kid, it was very funny. A couple things. A child came up and said, I like this and I like that. And I said, well, guests bring us things and we put them on the jacket. And they said, like what? And I go, well, really anything. If you find something in your junk drawer and you want me to, if it's small, I could put it on there. And all of a sudden, a moment later, he walked up. This is at the meet and greet. He walked up and he had found this little ring. He had found it, and I think it was one for one of the little scansion pulls or something like that. He just found it laying there, and he goes, what about this? And I go, all right, I'll put that on the jacket. And back early in the day, there was a kid who was eating like a lollipop that had sort of a plastic frame. And I said, kids, give me things, and I just put them on my jacket. And he looked at the little candy that he wasn't quite finished with, and he goes, and I go, okay, thank you very much. So I took that sticky piece of candy and I took off all the candy and I rinsed it and I put it on one of my jackets. So some of those things have been on the jackets.
Can I see one of them?
Yeah, please.
Let me see.
So I have these dating all the way back to the very first jacket that I had at WaterWorld. So they're very, really intimately special to me because they represent certain time periods.
This is awesome.
By the way, these are taken off of jackets that get decommissioned after I've had a series of jackets for 3 to 5 or more years. they'll create new jackets for me. And then the only thing I ask, I say, can I have this panel? And then again, they've been very, very kind to let me have those panels.
And what else do we have?
So this is really special. So a young man named Matthew made this and gave this to me during a meet and greet. He and his family came up. This took him, I think it's like crochet. It's crocheted, and it took him a long time to make it. It actually had an eye patch on it as well, but I have 2 cats, and they decided they needed it more than me. So they had their way with that, and I was not able to find that while coming in today. But this is really special, and you can see that he's put on the front a lot of little things trying to emulate that. So this, to me, honestly, we've had so many friends. I have a bracelet, one of the bracelets I'm wearing, a fan. Several of our fans make little bracelets, and they'll come up and they'll give us bracelets. A lot of them will bring pictures. They'll draw things. They'll create things. And this, and it's got even like the little cape on the back for the fire burn. So to all of our fans, I just want you to know that we love you so very much, and you are the heart and foundation of this show. Without you and your passion and love for our show and your support for us, WaterWorld would not be there. And I certainly would not have been there for 30 plus years. So to all of you, love you. Thank you so very much.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. Well, speaking of guests, here, let me hand you this right here.
Thank you.
Of course. Speaking of guest interaction, so after every show, you guys come out, you talk to the fans and all that. What's the most common question you get asked all the time? What seems to be the question that keeps popping up every time?
It's kind of seasonal, Brandon. Obviously, during the cold part of the year, they ask us, what's the water temperature?
Yeah.
As I mentioned earlier, WaterWorld is done in 4 different venues. Ours is not heated.
Really?
They don't need to heat it in Singapore because their average daily temperature is really high, being tropical. They do heat the pool in Japan, and they heat the pool in Beijing. WaterWorld Los Angeles, WaterWorld Hollywood is not heated. And so during the months of December, January, February, the water temperature goes down to right around 50 degrees. The lowest we've ever been, in my recollection, is 48 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's pretty darn cold. So a lot of our guests, seeing that we jump in the water, get splashed by water, etc., many of the cast members, the Deacon is the only one actually that does not have to go in the water. But they're always concerned about our comfort. That's during the winter time. The rest of the year, people come up to me and ask me about the fire dive and how come I don't get injured. And a lot of the kids are really baffled. They're like, "Are you okay?" And that's when I have to be humble and go, you know what? It's not actually me that does that. It's that gentleman right over there. And then I tell them about the process. He's the guy that rappels in the beginning, gets shot off at the gate, and then spends 10 minutes backstage getting dressed up just like me. And then he ascends to the center tower, and he waits for me and the Mariner to fight over the rocket launcher. And when the seaplane comes over the wall, I go behind the barrels, and our fire diver double comes out, and he does the fire dive. And I kneel, and I watch him from behind the barrels, and I continue saying my lines into my microphone, which is on my monocle. Wow. So those are the most important. Those are the biggest questions we get.
Those, yeah. I actually wonder that too, because I was rewatching it the other day, and I was like, I wonder if he's back there watching and just kind of saying out the line so this guy can act it out.
That's exactly what we're doing.
Good. So you've performed it for so long. Has any audience member tried to join the show by hopping over that gate?
Yes. So there is a NASCAR barrier. We have a pre-show, and some of our wonderful pre-show performers that do the sage role, that plays the fire diver and the lackey. Those 3 people are really instrumental in welcoming the audience into the show and breaking what we call the 4th wall. That essentially means the audience isn't just watching a show, but they are now active characters within that show. They literally are the 10th cast member in our show. And so that pre-show sets up that whole premise. We want you to join in. We get them all riled up. And as you can imagine, during that process of audience cast interaction, sometimes audience members have gotten unruly. And that's created some tension and friction. We throw water and spray people. So every once in a while, there have been moments there. All of those have generally been handled. I mean, when you consider that the show has been done literally thousands and thousands of times, our people are really masterful at diffusing those kinds of things. But Brandon, we did have an incident. I don't remember exactly when it was. I feel like it was around 2018, 2019, somewhere in that area. We had an audience member jump the NASCAR railing, swim across and get on the peninsula and grab their Gatling gun.
Oh,
now,
wow.
There's only one place, and maybe this is a trivia moment for people who know the show. There's only one moment in the entire show where there's no cast member on the peninsula. It's actively during the show. And so that person had to have a certain amount of knowledge about the show to go, this is when I'm going to go. Because had they tried to do it at any other moment, they would have immediately been met by somebody on the stage. But it's when the Deacon follows Helen up the ladder, and now the entire peninsula is vacated, and the person set their phone down, took their wallet out of their pocket. They were like in one of the first few rows, got up, jumped the railing, swam across. And then they were met by one of our other cast members that was backstage, whatever, came out and met them and then escorted them off the stage. There was also on that stage at the time, it doesn't have any ammo in it, but obviously the Gatling gun it's got propane, it's harmless. So it just turns and spits out a little fire. But there is a shotgun that's laying on the stage. It's pinned so that it can't accept live ammo, and there was no ammo in that area at that time. But obviously, people who do that put themselves and other people at risk. So that was the only time in the history of WaterWorld, to my knowledge, that somebody did that.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. I'm glad it was taken care of.
Yeah.
Now, there's been changes, of course, through the show as it's grown. One of the stunts I realized one time that was taken out, and I'm kind of curious why. It was cool. It was the net that hung over the audience, and where Helen would kick one of the henchmen and they would fall. They would lay there for a bit before they got back up. Why'd they take that out?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that has to do with the development and evolution of the show, primarily when we switched operators. For the first 18 years of the show was operated by a vendor company, because we work for Universal Studios, but we work for a vendor that takes on all of the insurance liability. And that first vendor for the first 18 years was Water Ski Shows, Inc., WSSI. And they ran, operated, hired all the performers for that show for the first 18 years. And then Universal Studios made a change, and they went to Action Horizons, which also operated the show in Japan and Singapore. So they wanted more unification with those operators. And when Action Horizons came in, they took over creative reins as well. And they said, we want to add 3 minutes of action-based content to the show. Oh. And so what happened was that that character became the Sage. They added the Sage character. And that track, which normally ended there, they thought they could get more use out of. And so that character that normally fell in the net now dives after Helen as she takes off in the Slide for Life. So they dug out an area of the water so that they could actively run along Helen during the Slide for Life and dive after her. So they figured that was a better stunt. And then that same track, the Lackey track, climbs out of the water and has another fight that was added with Helen in the corner, what they call the rope fight. And that was added. And then that character runs around and climbs up top and has one more fight with Helen. So the character that traditionally would have the bucket fight and then fall in that net that was over the audience ended up doing another stunt and having 2 more fights and another dive.
Oh.
And so they added a lot more content, and that character benefited. So it was very fun to have them fall in that net above the audience, but the show benefited from the added content.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense, because I did see a video where they were mentioning adding the jump where he's chasing Alan or Helen, sorry, to push the show more to the front of the audience.
Yep. It's interesting because they built the show so that the biggest stunt in the show was going to be a fire dive, 45-foot fire dive. And that was going to be visually arresting. And it still is. But what they discovered was that stunt, they first added it, I believe, in the show in Singapore. In Singapore, they added it. And the audience went crazy for it because it's right on top of the audience. It's right there in front of them. And there are many times where that stunt gets a bigger reaction than the fire dive because of proximity.
May I share what Joey thought about what would be cool to add to the show?
I think I know one of them, but you want me to guess?
Yeah, go ahead.
How about a fire-burning jet ski out of the launch? It actually, they've done it. They've done fire burns. I don't know if they've done it out of the launch, but they've done like gate entry, fire burn, circle circle the peninsula, and then go back out. They did that in some of the early, what do they call it? Slaughter World. Some of the Halloween event shows, Slaughter World, back in the day. Mm-hmm. So it has been done. It's actually a pretty cool jet ski stunt, and Joey knows it well. Yeah. And that's why he vies for it. And I wouldn't be surprised if they add that to one of these Halloween stunts again. Well, I think we will see it. But I think it would be great in WaterWorld. Yeah.
he's like, I get it may take away from the cool one at the top, which
that's
is
right.
Like understandable. But I'm like,
yeah.
This guy is always pushing the limits. He's like, let me on fire.
Joey's great.
Yeah.
And I will say a little nod to Joey. We had a Chuck named Nick Hanneman who was really innovative with me. The Deacon had a sidekick, a comic sidekick, but then the water skier, the Chuck character, became another sidekick, and we started innovating a lot of things. And with Nick Hanneman, we created a lot of bits. And then Nick Hanneman left, and then Joey came along and really once again gave me another Nick Hanneman. So I have a lot of love for Joey Wilson.
Yes,
a very funny guy, and has really been instrumental in, again, kind of pushing the boundaries of what we can do and creating character-based interactions on that stage. And he's wonderful.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Because of him, I decided to buy me some stilts.
Yeah, he's a master.
So I'm like, he's showing me the ropes, telling me exactly what I got to do, how to learn to fall, the whole thing about it. He did mention one of the lines in WaterWorld, I guess he kind of threw out there. Is it, while you only got one eye?
Yeah.
Is that, yeah?
Yeah, well, and again, a lot of times people will innovate based on what the Deacon says. And that to me is brilliant, because if you're listening and you have a response that runs maybe contrary to what the line is in the script, but opens up another meaning, it's really brilliant. And that's what Joey did. So we've just witnessed Helen defeating the lackey one more time with a bucket fight. And I had been saying, again, same for same, instead of me saying, the line in the script is, who trained these guys? And then he's supposed to say, you did, boss. And then we punch him, right? So it's like me being frustrated. Who trained these guys? You did, boss. And then punch. So I had been saying, before saying that, I would say, that was hard to watch. Who trained these guys? But he picked up on the fact that I'd say, that was hard to watch, because I've just watched another one of my guys getting beaten up. And Joey, I go, that was hard to watch. And he goes, that's because you have one eye. And I look at him and I punch him. So same for same. The Deacon says something, Chuck says something, foot in mouth, and gets punished for it. And so he created a new way, a new joke in that bit that satisfied what was necessary.
So good.
Yeah, so very good. And I love that because that means he's listening. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love it. So kind of taking it back a little, where did you grow up?
I grew up in the cornfields of Northwest Indiana.
Really?
Just outside of Chicago, a place called Chesterton, Indiana. It's the gateway to the Indiana Dunes State Park. So, me and my friends, we got up classically back in that era. We'd gather with our bikes and we'd shoot off to conquer the world. And it was literally the era of be home before the streetlights come on. And we'd cross over the railroad tracks, through the fence of the state park, and spend our days on the national park property. And started doing theater, had a very well-funded high school, and so we had a great theater program there. And the other big contributor in my early performance life was forensics. Other people may know it as speech and debate, where I was a high school national champion in dramatic interpretation, went on to Bradley University with a scholarship to compete on their team, and did theater at Bradley while also competing. And the guy there I just have to mention, George Armstrong. At the end of my freshman year, I ran out of money and I wasn't going to be able to return. And just a couple weeks before the semester of my sophomore year was to start, he called me up and said, "Dolph, come on down. We got you covered." He got me a full ride, full scholarship. He put me, gave me he had a basement apartment, put me up there. So I got my undergraduate degree at Bradley University, thanks to George Armstrong. And I went on to continue competing for Bradley and became the most awarded speaker in college forensic history.
Wow.
With 9 national championships in multiple events.
Wow.
And based on that, I auditioned, interviewed, and got a full ride to get my master's degree in acting at University of Illinois. And so here I was, out of school after my freshman year, thinking I was, finished with my education. Grew up in a big family, 4 brothers, 2 sisters, blue collar workers, steel workers, construction, mechanics, and that I wasn't going to get my degree. And George Armstrong from Bradley University opened so many doors for me.
Wow. Yeah. So you did that. You got all those awards, the degrees you started going into for performing. What drew you to that? There's so many different things out there. You mentioned you came from a background of like steel and all this other stuff. Why performing?
I have to give a quick nod to one other very instrumental person, and I'll go back. The other person was that once I got to university, because specifically I'm a stunt man, specifically when I got to University of Illinois to study acting, there was another guy there named Robin McFarquhar, who was the head of the movement program. He was an Englishman at University of Illinois. And he introduced me to the love of theatrical combat. And we had a whole year of it, culminating with a certification with the Society of American Fight Directors. And then my next 2 years at University of Illinois, I was his assistant teaching the BFA program in theatrical combat. So if it weren't for him, when I dumped out, I wouldn't have been primed and ready to do the things I'm doing today. All the live action shows needed people who could act and fight. So thank you, Robin McFarquhar. I would say the first moment, the origin, when I was in middle school, I went out for a play. It was Johnny Appleseed. I was in 6th grade, and I played the very first role, very first acting thing I ever had the role was called Third Selectman. So, not a named character. It was like Townsman number 4, and I had like 2 lines. And in 6th grade, they gave away these little awards at the end of it. And I got Best Supporting Actor because my 2 lines brought down the house. Nice. And I had this little certificate, Best Supporting Actor. And so I got bit by the bug. And then in 7th grade, I didn't go to the audition. It was something else. It was, I think, some play called The Good Witch of Boston or something like that. And the teacher came up and said, "Why didn't you audition? Where were you? I was expecting you to be there." And I said, "Oh, I don't know." And they go, "Well, I saved you a part." And it was another one of these like third selectman part. Yeah. And then my final year of middle school, I did audition for Wizard of Oz and I played Scarecrow. And then I was just full on. When I got into high school, it was a very well-funded theater program. So my sister, when I was a kid, I had so much energy, and the most common phrase I heard while in school, in elementary and middle school, was, "Mr. Dolph, is that necessary?" Because I was constantly like, moving things and like pencils and, "Mr. Dolph, is that necessary?" And so my sister, she was a year ahead of me in high school. And she saw the forensic team do a speech program in the auditorium. And she comes home so excited. And she said, "Greg, you've got to when you get to high school next year, you've got to go sign up for speech and debate and do forensics. You got to do there. I saw this person go up there and they did all these characters. They were doing like multiple characters. And I said, okay, so I go when I get to high school and I go and I sign up for speech and debate. And Mr. Percival was the teacher, wonderful guy, still a friend of mine. And Mr. Percival meets us at the door and he says, if you guys can't go to the weekend tournaments, you need to go back down to the guidance counselor and drop out. And so I go, okay. So I go up to Mr. Percival and I say, hey, Mr. Percival, my sister told me about this character. And I was always like playing with his desk, like staplers and stuff. My sister told me about this person who was doing all these characters and I want to do these acting roles. He goes, don't mess, stop, don't mess. And I said, but can I do that? And he goes, you're going to do this. And he had me doing debate. So for the first part of my freshman year in high school, he had me doing debate in Congress. And I kept going up, Mr. Percival, when are we going to do the acting thing? Don't mess. And then there was an instructor named Joe Wyckoff, and he was the head of the speech team. And he was the god of the speech team. And he only worked with all the juniors and seniors. So I had little hope to work with him as a freshman. They had the first play of the year was the musical, and it was Oliver Twist. It was Oliver. So as a lowly freshman, I go to audition for Oliver, and then I get a call back. And so I go to the callback and I do the callback, and then the roster, the cast is posted on the principal's office door. And in high school, these are huge, massive ensembles. They'll cast anybody, these ensembles are big, like 30, 40, 50 people in a musical. So I start at the very bottom because I'm a freshman. I'm like, I just want to get into the chorus or whatever. And I go through the ensemble, the chorus, and I don't see it. And as I start going up, all of these cast members, my heart is absolutely dropping. I mean, I'm telling you, Brandon, I had no belief in myself. I literally was heartbroken the higher I went on that list of cast members.
Really?
And when I get to the very top, the top character is Oliver Twist. The second character is the villain of Oliver, and it's Fagin. And that was the first villain I played. And I saw Fagin, Greg Dolph, and I experienced three emotions almost simultaneously. The first one was like shock, just shock, like what, like shock. And then immediately on its heels, I felt the power and jubilation of euphoria, like, oh my goodness, what a triumphant moment to be cast as Fagin as a freshman. And then immediately on the heels of that, abject terror. Because I was like,
Yeah.
how in the world? So like shock, victory, terror. And then here's how I wrap it back into forensics. We did the show. It was really successful. It was a personal success for me, one that really revolutionized the way that people saw me and saw me now as a performer, as an actor. And when I came back into the speech and debate class, Mr. Percival said, Mr. Wyckoff wants to see you. And I went in and he said, act sad, act happy, act angry. Here's a script, memorize it, we'll start working next week. That script, I won the first tournament I took it to, and then 4 years later, I became his first national champion in dramatic interpretation. So
Wow.
Thank you to Joe Wyckoff as well.
Wow. Okay. So you did that. What sent you to LA? The acting dream or the stunt dream?
So because of forensics, after I went to grad school, when I was in grad school, I also was coaching the University of Illinois speech team, but I was getting my master's degree in acting. When I left grad school, I was like, okay, it's going to be all about acting. So I go east and I do an internship at Cincinnati Playhouse, and then I work at the Pennsylvania Renaissance Fair and Busch Gardens out east. And I had some time off between a gig. And so I go back home to the Chicago area, and there are a friend of mine who is coaching in forensics now. He said, Greg, we have a tournament this weekend. Would you like to go judge? And I said, yeah, I'd love to judge. And so at that tournament, I was approached by people who remembered me from the college national tournament. And I got 3 job offers. So one was coaching at College of DuPage, one was coaching at Solano College up near San Francisco, and then one was coaching at Mount San Antonio College here in Los Angeles. Wow. And as an actor, I thought, I want to go to Los Angeles.
Of course.
So I moved to Los Angeles on the strength of a teaching offer And I ended up teaching public speaking and helping coach Mount San Antonio College to a national championship during my first 10 years in Los Angeles. At the same time, I was pursuing acting. And during that same time period, I had started working at Universal. So there was a time period where I was doing the Deacon and working at Mount San Antonio College. And then in 2003, AMDA came along, and I said goodbye to Mount San Antonio College, and I moved over to teaching theatrical combat full time.
Combat. Now, so it seemed like from all this story, you did a lot of acting, performing. It didn't seem like any stunts early on. When you got to LA and then you started teaching, where did stunts start to play more of a role?
Well, certainly in the live action world, generally in every live action show, what you'll have is they hire almost every one of them are specialty. Like, what is the base skill sets? Well, we need people to do motorcycles. Well, let's hire motorcyclists. And then we'll teach them the peripheral things. Well, they got to act. Well, they've never acted at all in their life. So let's teach them how to act. They got to do high falls. Let's teach them that. At WaterWorld, certainly, we need jet skiers. We need divers. But in the center of all of those stunt-related roles, they need a villain. And the villain is always an actor, because the villain has to be, they can't just hire, or they haven't had success just hiring stunt people to play the villain. And the villain, normally they shape that role. Every role is shaped based on skill set specific. And then they teach people peripherally what they have to do. But the villain, at least since day one of every stunt show I've ever done, the villain is an actor who is live mic'd. And then they have to normally fight, because they normally meet their demise by some final interaction with the hero, and then some fall or whatever, some stunt. And so just getting into that world kind of put me in the stunt community.
Oh, okay.
And then the reason I'm actually at SAG, you have to delineate. When you join SAG, you have to say, I'm an actor or I'm a stunt person. It's kind of funny. At the end, it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean you can only do stunts. You can only do acting work. But I already viewed myself as an actor. I needed the world out here to view me as a stunt man. So when I signed up for SAG, I signed up as a stunt man. So my SAG identity is a stunt man. And the person who actually got me into SAG, I never got a chance to work with. And this was one of my poor Greg stories. But I'd heard that they were doing auditions for a new pirate show, a new pirate movie, and it's going to be big, starring Johnny Depp. And they had these auditions down at the Debbie Reynolds dance studio. Now, I'm a sword fighter. A sword of fighting, I've had a sword in my hand for over 30 years, every single week. And that's like my love, my passion and hobby. Apart from acting, sword fighting is it. So I went and I crashed the audition, and a man named George Rugi, who was the stunt coordinator for Pirates of the Caribbean, walks up to me and he says, "You know how to sword fight?" And I said, "Yeah, it's one of my absolute loves and passions." And he said, "Are you SAG?" And I said, "I'm not SAG at the moment." And he said, "Are you Equity?" which is the professional actors union, the stage union. And I said, "Yeah, I am Equity." And he said, "Well, you can buy into SAG. It's a brother-sister union." So that day, I went down to SAG and I bought into SAG thanks to George Rugi, who is the stunt coordinator for Pirates of the Caribbean. So then I get called in, and Gore Verbinski, who was the director for Pirates of the Caribbean, is choosing the crew for Barbossa's ship and for Johnny Depp's ship. Nice. So I'm in this big circle of guys, and Gore Verbinski is walking around looking us all up and down and going, "Get over there and you go over there." And he walks up and he steps back from one guy and he goes, "You have a wooden leg." And the guy goes, "And I do stunts." And he goes, "Well, get over there." And at the end, I didn't get selected. It was just literally Gore Verbinski wanting, it didn't have anything to do with skill. It was just what people look like. There were two other shaved-headed guys there, really good friends of mine. They ended up getting selected. But George told us all, he said, "Hey, everybody, if you didn't get selected today, don't worry. We have a lot of work ahead." And I later crashed another day of filming, and George Rugi, I walk up to him and he goes, "Greg Dolph." And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Me and Mark Ivy, who was the assistant for Bob Anderson, who was famous sword coordinator. He played Darth Vader in Empire Strikes Back. He did all the sword fighting. He was credited with the sword fighting choreography for Pirates of the Caribbean, for Zorro. So Bob Anderson and Mark Ivey and George Rugi were talking about putting me in a scene. In the meantime, I got sent to go to Austin to film Secondhand Lions. When I get back, all of those sets are locked down. And I never got back on one again. And I never got to work on Pirates of the Caribbean.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Especially coming from a background of always having a sword in your hand, because I've seen some of your footage and you're pretty good with the sword.
So there was a political falling out between Bob Anderson and George Rugi. Bob Anderson and Mark Ivey walked. George Rugi hired his own guys. And I think I was viewed as a Bob Anderson, Mark Ivey guy. And I think all of those guys got sort of blacklisted. So I wasn't able, even though I wasn't specifically, I think I was political fodder, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And those things happen in Hollywood.
Now,
But,
you've also worked on a couple other things. You've done Resident Evil Extinction, and then you also were on Conan as a zombie. Yeah.
Well, I was on Conan for over 10 years.
Really?
Yeah. So
Just
I was
as a repeating zombie, or?
Oh, I did a lot of zombie stuff on Conan. I did a Snickers zombie. That one's easy to find. Snickers zombie. That was at Comic-Con down in San Diego. That was fun. I did a couple other zombies for different other sketches. But I was on there for 10 years doing a lot of different characters, some recurring characters. I was a pharaoh that got thrown through a wall of matzah every Passover. I was a recurring character in a Pee Wee Herman. Every time Pee Wee Herman would come on, he would tell the history of certain holidays. And so they would bring him on and then he'd go, oh, and the pilgrims were there and pirates were there. And I'd walk out always as a pirate. So every year that they do that, he'd go, hey, Pee Wee's doing another holiday story. Can you be the pirate again? I go, yes. I got to work with The Rock. I got to be, they were doing a fun thing on Rampage where I got to be the gorilla. And Conan was acting like, well, hey, maybe I could be your stunt double. And so we did this very fun thing where I got to beat the crap out of Conan O'Brien.
Nice.
But yeah, Conan was wonderful. Conan is so beautiful and wonderful to work with, really sweet. Andy Richter is really nice. So I spent 10 years working on Conan, doing a lot of sketch comedy and coordinating from time to time.
So these were just different skits or different kind of bits that they wanted to do. And they're like, well, we know a stunt guy. Let's bring out Greg.
Well, there's nepotism in their story. So Tito Enriquez, you may remember that name. He was the guy that walked in right after me when I was auditioning to get the directing job. Tito Enriquez became the director of WaterWorld. He had a brother named Rick Enriquez. And I was working on another totally fun show, a touring show called the Dennis the Menace Show. And while Tito Enriquez was directing live shows for Totally Fun Company, Rick was a stage manager for the Totally Fun Company doing the Dennis the Menace Show. And when that show got out to Los Angeles, Rick Enriquez and I were roommates. And he also he left eventually to start pursuing things in the film and TV industry. And while I took the performing route, he took the management route, and he ascended to becoming the personnel director and casting director for some notable programs in Hollywood. He was the casting director for the Wayne Brady Show. Wow. He then became the casting director for the Hollywood Squares game show. Is that it? Hollywood Squares, when Whoopi Goldberg was the center square. And eventually he became the casting director for The Tonight Show with Conan O'Brien, when Conan O'Brien took it over for a year, took it over from Jay Leno. And so one day, Rick Enriquez calls me up and says, Greg, I'm now the casting director for The Tonight Show with Conan O'Brien. Send me all the pictures and resumes of your funny friends. And from that day forward, I was doing stuff, and many of our friends, cast members from WaterWorld over the years, benefited from that connection. And then when Conan moved to TBS, Rick moved over and became their casting director. Wow. So a bit of friend nepotism there. Rick would call me in. And so I got to really benefit from that connection.
Wow, that's amazing. I did have a question. This is kind of a sidebar. This is a little nod to WaterWorld. Of course, there's a scene in WaterWorld. You come out, you swing a golf club. Right?
Yeah.
You swing it, you hit I think it's a ping pong ball probably or something.
It's a plastic golf ball. It's dimpled. So there are a lot of practice balls.
Okay. You hit that into the crowd. Are you a golfer outside of WaterWorld?
I'm a weekend warrior. I would say, I love pitch and putt courses. Par 3 courses are probably the kind that I, feel most comfortable. I do hit some executive courses from time to time. I have a good friend who was a fellow Deacon for the first 8 years at WaterWorld named Charles Currier. He and I play golf almost every Sunday, and we'll go out to a Van Nuys course. There's an executive course. It's like a 9-hole par 3, par 4 course.
Isn't it just one of the most humbling games you've ever played?
Yeah.
I love playing golf.
Yeah.
I actually dislocated my shoulder from golfing. By the way,
I think you're playing wrong. What did you do?
Golfing's dangerous, let's be honest.
What cliff in Los Angeles did you fall off?
No, me and a couple of buddies, we were at Top Golf, and we had about a 2-hour bay, and basically we had 3 minutes left, and we were just doing a long drive competition.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I have a baseball background, so I was like, let me swing this thing as hard as possible on this last. So
Happy Gilmore.
I did basically. Overswung, hyperextended, and it just took and popped my shoulder out of place. So most dislocations happen like this. Mine happened like this.
Did you have to get surgery or just get it popped back in?
No, just popped back in. It was it was out of place for about 3 hours. Worst pain I've ever been in. So I'm still recovering from that, but fun times, I can't wait to get back out though.
Yeah. Oh, so this is recent.
It's maybe like 2 months ago.
Can you comb your hair?
Yeah. I can lift, but in the beginning it was rough. It was so rough.
Yeah. Playing golf is absolutely a love-hate relationship. To me, I've never taken it so seriously that it's been overly frustrating.
Yeah.
I've never made it a career or even aspired to that. So to me, it's always social. WaterWorld, though, it is very important to be able to hit that golf ball. It's you come off of that boat, you step on the peninsula, and 3,000 people are looking at you, and the first thing you have to do to prove some credibility is hit a golf ball into the audience. So I have known many, many, many deacons that have struggled with it mightily, and it's worth any amount of time you have to at least, to get good enough to hit that into the audience. And like anybody else, I have, I go through bad spells where I hit it in the water, can't get into the audience, and I have to go back to my mechanics, keep that left arm straight, keep my eyes down.
Yeah.
You go.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many freaking mechanics with golf.
That's right.
Every little thing. Do you have any future projects coming up that you're working on?
Future projects. I completed a film called Prowler with a wonderful director-writer named Robert Cannon. It was my first feature film where I was the lead. It's a very interesting project. It's done without any dialogue. The entire movie, it's a feature-length film, and the entire movie is done just through action. It's all action-based, all stunts. Prowler is a high-end arts collector. So he's sort of an intelligent, very sort of MacGyver-y, does use a lot of gadgets and things to get into places, is very thorough in his research and knows exactly when to get into places, and then replaces art collectibles with really high-end forgeries so that if he does his job well, nobody knows.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Like these art collectibles are there, and then he can take the real thing and sell artwork and different thing to private buyers. So it's a pretty sophisticated, high-end heist movie. And in that movie, what happens is, while doing one of the heists, the owner comes home early, unexpected. And so Prowler has to go into a back room, into a closet, and make his way through a wall into a building next door. And in that process, he comes across a safe room containing something that he has no business taking. And he ends up taking it. And the rest of the movie becomes a high-speed, high-energy, adrenaline-filled chase in the underbelly of downtown Los Angeles.
Oh, nice.
While this group of people try to pursue him and kill him to get back what they want. So it's a really clever plot, which shows off a lot of the downtown LA. And right now it's in post-production, and we're just kind of waiting for it to come out. I think Robert is trying to go through a lot of notable festivals first to see if he can get backing and distribution. So that's where we are.
When is that to come out?
I don't know. I wish I did. It's still in post-production. It should come out, but I don't know. Again, a lot of it depends on what kind of backing it gets, if it will have what kind of distribution it will get. But it's not been released yet on any format. So maybe a follow-up at some point.
Yeah. And as we start to wrap up, any closing thoughts on your end?
I'm grateful to you for bringing a spotlight to us and what we do. I know
Thank
that you do
you.
that for
Yeah.
a lot of people. WaterWorld is a show that has been obviously really important to me. I have an intimate relationship with that show, with the family, very extended family of performers, actors, performers, vendors, crew members, lighting, sound, costumers, people not just in Hollywood, but all over the world that have brought that show to life and made it what it is. It has a life not just at Hollywood, but in various venues around the world. And there's rumors that the next WaterWorld will take place in Bedfordshire, England, just outside of
Wow.
London. Universal Studios is building a new one there. There are some ongoing rumors off and on that maybe Epic down in Florida might get a WaterWorld. I'm hoping that in some small way I can play a role in the development of those shows, maybe be brought on again as I was in Beijing to help coach up some new deacons in the world.
That's awesome.
But just a nod to everyone that's been a part of WaterWorld and to our incredible, adoring fan base. Love you so very much, and thanks for all the support you've given to me and other cast members throughout many, many years. We'd be nothing without you.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And here's the final one. When the day finally comes, when you take your final bow as the deacon, what do you hope people remember the way you played the character and what you put into that character? What do you hope they remember?
I really hope that I'm thought of as a person that never stopped innovating. I hope that they think of me and think that I helped bring levity and texture and levels to a show, and that I was instrumental in the development of its show and in its longevity. And I hope that people, certainly I hope fellow cast members, remember all the wonderful times we had, not just on stage, but backstage. And that we made people smile and laugh and open their mouths in awe, and that we pulled people away from screens. Maybe something that wasn't as necessary in the early days. But I think the fact that we're one of the only practical places to see this in the world, that live action stunt shows are dying and being replaced by turnkey 3-dimensional screens. I think that when people see us now, we're as vital and maybe more important than ever before. And I hope that that gives us longevity and legs into the future.
Thank you again so much for being here and taking the time to have a conversation about the love for WaterWorld, how you started with it, and really appreciate it.
Brandon, thank you so very much.
Of course.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you. That's going to wrap up this episode. So if you stayed this long, thank you so much. I hope you were entertained, inspired. Greg has an amazing story. And if you haven't seen WaterWorld, go see WaterWorld.
Come visit
Greg's
us.
there, Universal Studios. Other than that, make sure you're subscribed, drop a like, drop a comment. Really helps out the channel a lot. You can find this episode on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. Until then, we drop a new episode every single Tuesday, and we will see you on the next episode. Peace.